The man practices shooting under the bridge every night. During the day, he goes home and starts planning his next move. The man has already lost his job. For his plan, he has spent almost all his money on purchasing equipment. Soon after, he completed his first mission in the target's underground parking lot. But this is not his final plan. His goal is to make all the scammers pay for their actions. No one knows what he will do next. The reporters can't figure out why he is doing this. The man's name is Lincoln, and he once had a warm family. Until 6 months ago, his wife was diagnosed with cancer during a hospital checkup. Although the cancer cells were cleared after treatment, the risk of recurrence is still very high. The doctor suggested it's best to regularly administer new medication to her every week. Although this medication is not cheap, Lincoln immediately agreed to the doctor's advice. The man thought their insurance could help cover his wife's treatment costs, but when he tried to pay, he was told they had just paid for their medical insurance. It had already reached the reimbursement limit. Lincoln could only pay with a credit card. After returning home, he immediately called the insurance company to clarify the situation. They told him, in the terms on page 98 of the policy, it clearly stated the reimbursement restrictions, meaning all future medical costs would have to be covered by him. However, with just his salary, he couldn't afford these expenses. After Rosie found out, she began to blame herself. She felt like she was burdening her husband. At this moment, Lincoln comforted his wife, still believing optimistically. They still had $60,000 in veteran compensation. A few years ago, they had invested this money in a guaranteed fund. He thought that if they withdrew everything, it would definitely be enough to cover his wife's treatment costs. The next day, Lincoln called the fund broker. Before he could speak, the broker hung up citing a meeting. This made Lincoln very angry. His colleagues told him they too had fallen for the broker's lies. In less than a month, the retirement fund had lost 20%. Lincoln had a bad feeling. In the following weeks, to cover his wife's treatment costs, Lincoln had no choice but to keep maxing out his credit cards, until he could no longer afford the medical expenses. He finally met with his fund broker. The broker gave him some bad news. The fund he had invested in had long been lost. Knowing he had been scammed, Lincoln demanded that the broker immediately return his principal, but the broker directly refused. Then Lincoln received even more bad news. As soon as he arrived at the company, Lincoln was called into the boss's office. Due to issues at the company, Lincoln was forced to lose his job. Although the boss was willing to pay compensation, after losing his job, Lincoln aimlessly wandered the streets. What he didn't know was, his wife had already decided not to burden him any longer. The wife's departure became the sole reason for Lincoln to plan his next steps.